trapped inside a mysterious bunker after ignoring local warnings about a curse. The film begins in the year 1670, showing a group of tribespeople on the island of Saipan performing a ritual on an old foreign man who has entered their territory. As chants are continuously recited, the atmosphere becomes intensely unsettling until the tribal leader begins to skin the man's face as part of the ritual.
¡No es culpa mía!
After that, the old man is imprisoned inside a cave and left there, his fate unknown. The story then shifts to the present day, where a woman named Paulina arrives at a hotel on the island of Saipan. She is a developer assigned to survey a location that will be turned into a new resort. After finishing her business at the hotel, Paulina steps outside and meets her colleague, Tyler, followed by Alan, a marketing agent responsible for offering the resort location to the company Paulina works for. Accompanying them is also Dave, a member of Paulina's team who works as a videographer. Not long after, they prepare to head to the site with the help of Pepe, a native of Saipan who works with Alan and serves as their guide. On their way, it is revealed that the resort development project has been rejected by the local residents because the land is considered sacred and holds spiritual significance for their ancestors. Despite this, the group continues their trip until they arrive at the location.
There's a lot of folklore dating back to the Spanish colonization.
I think it is a cursed place.
Hey, what do these mean?
That we should keep out.
The land is situated in a remote part of the island, offering stunning views with untouched beaches and a waterfall along the hillside, making it highly promising as a tourist destination. To survey the area further, Paulina asks Dave to fly a drone. However, through the drone's footage, they spot two local men at the site, which seems strange since Alan previously claimed the area was never visited by residents. Assuming they are trespassing, Alan decides to drive them away and asks Pepe to help communicate in the local language. Before leaving, one of the men, an elderly figure wearing a mask, warns Pepe to be careful and not to ignore the messages of their ancestors.
Although
the warning feels unsettling, the group chooses to disregard it. Still around the area, Paulina and Tyler discover an abandoned old bunker left over from the war. Alan initially suggests that they should not go inside, but Tyler worries that the bunker's existence could become a problem once construction begins. In the end, they decide to inspect it anyway. Dave, who is behind them, picks up a Bojobo doll that the old man had dropped earlier, then follows them into the bunker. Inside, they are shocked to find a dried corpse in a room. Alan begins to feel uneasy and suggests that they leave and return later with a better prepared team. However, Paulina, driven by curiosity, insists that they continue exploring.
Whoa. Listen, Pepe, I'll get a full team to take care of the remains. I had no idea.
I would hope so.
Not really equipped for cave exploration.
Let's do it. Thought you said this was just a machine gun nest.
How far does this go?
It's like that somebody was real hungry. I'm surprised the Marines didn't strip this place for souvenirs.
As they go deeper, more strange discoveries appear, including two more bodies, a man and a woman, in similar dried conditions. Since the bunker dates back to World War II, they assume the bodies are victims of the war who were killed during the occupation. However, the situation takes a turn when they enter another room and encounter a mysterious old man who suddenly approaches Alan. That old man warns them to leave, but in a panic, Alan pushes him, causing his head to slam into the wall. As the old man lies dying, he warns them that Alan must die, and he also blames Paulina as the cause of everything.
But I hear something.
Okay. Alan, you must die. Your fault.
What the hell is that?
Not long after, a sudden earthquake strikes, followed by a high-pitched ringing sound that causes all of them to lose consciousness. Not long after, they regain consciousness and are shocked to find that all the lights inside the bunker suddenly turn on, as if the place has become fully operational again. Pepe is confused because the old man they encountered earlier has now completely disappeared. The strangeness doesn't stop there, as the other bodies have also vanished without a trace. When they try to leave the bunker, they discover that the door is tightly locked from the outside, making them realize that they are now truly trapped inside. Paulina attempts to find a signal on her phone, but there is no reception at all, leaving them unable to call for help. Under pressure, they decide to search for another way out. Tension begins to rise when Alan, already frustrated with Paulina's decisions, chooses to split off from the group. They eventually divide into 2 teams, with Alan going with Pepe, while Paulina stays with Tyler and Dave. As Alan and Pepe explore another corridor, they come across an old radio belonging to Japanese soldiers that still appears to be functional. Unfortunately, since they do not understand Japanese, they are unable to operate it.
Must be a way out here somewhere. Jackpot. Do you speak Japanese?
I can ask where toilet is.
Come on, Pepe.
Nothing about toilet here.
Meanwhile, Dave, who had briefly been separated, is suddenly approached by a mysterious man wearing a Japanese soldier's uniform. At the same time, Tyler discovers an old journal that appears to have been written by someone who once stayed in the bunker. Not long after, Dave returns to the room in a threatened state, as the Japanese soldier is pointing a gun at him. The soldier seems confused and asks how they managed to enter the place. Tyler, who understands some Japanese, tries to communicate with him and asks if there is a way out of the bunker. The soldier replies that there is no way out, and his behavior becomes increasingly strange as he admits to having done many terrible things, as if haunted by deep guilt. Suddenly, a gunshot echoes through the bunker, prompting Alan and Pepe to rush toward the sound. When they arrive, they are shocked to see that the Japanese soldier has shot himself. Alan then mentions that he previously found a radio that might be useful, but since it is in Japanese, he could not operate it. Hearing this, Tyler asks to be taken to the radio, hoping they can contact someone outside. They immediately head to the room where the radio is located, while Pepe chooses to stay behind in the previous room. Once there, Tyler tries to use the radio, but it only plays a recorded message from the Japanese command, not a two-way communication device that can be used to call for help.
I found a radio, but everything's labeled in Japanese. Here.
Kikomaska. It's a recorded message.
Elsewhere, Pepe takes the Bojobo doll he found in the pocket of the Japanese soldier's uniform. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts when he sees a terrifying old woman standing in the corner of the room. The figure resembles his mother, who has long been dead. In his unstable state, Pepe seems to be influenced by the apparition, driving him to harm himself. Meanwhile, Alan's group discovers a cave that appears to have existed long before the bunker, with 2 images of Bojobo dolls carved into its walls. Seeing this, Dave recalls a story he once read. He explains that the place is likely a burial site for Chamorro tribal leaders on the island of Saipan. In their belief, 2 Bojobo dolls are used as a medium to bind the spirit of a tribal leader with their partner, symbolizing an eternal bond between them. However, in a curse ritual, the 2 dolls were deliberately separated. This separation is the core of the curse, as the broken bond causes suffering to the spirits bound within the dolls, and that suffering is also inflicted upon the target of the curse, a Spanish colonel who once committed atrocities against the Chamorro people. As a result, the colonel cannot die. He is cursed to live in an endless cycle of suffering, trapped in darkness and forced to endure the same torment repeatedly as long as the 2 dolls remain separated. Over time, the place was eventually discovered by Japanese soldiers during the war, and without any knowledge of the curse, they built a protective bunker there.
These were the first Bojobo dolls. I read about it in a book on Chamorro folklore. Chief was buried down here. Bride was kept above ground. The chief's suffering for his lost love would be equally eternal. By separating the 2, a curse was formed. The Spanish commander who did terrible things, and that torment would be felt by the commander.
According to Dave, the curse most likely never truly disappeared, but instead continued to pass from one victim to the next, and he begins to suspect that the old man they encountered earlier may have been part of that cycle. However, Alan refuses to believe the explanation and dismisses everything as nothing more than baseless myth. The argument causes Dave to distance himself from the group, and that is when the strangeness returns. He sees the figure of his younger sister Claire, who has long been dead. The apparition looks real and seems to call out to him, drawing him closer without him realizing it. Suddenly, he loses his balance and falls, injuring his leg. Seeing Dave's condition, the group decides to leave the room and search for a safer place to tend to his injury. They then carry Dave to a room that once served as a resting area for soldiers in the past. Seeing that Dave is in no condition to walk, Paulina decides to stay and take care of him, while asking Alan and Tyler to continue searching for a way out of the bunker. In another room, Alan and Tyler are shocked by Pepe's sudden appearance, his body covered in self-inflicted cuts. With an empty stare, Pepe says that he has now become a witness, then adds that someone must bear their suffering.
Pepe, I am witness now. Only one. Forever, someone must carry their pain. Someone must protect me.
Meanwhile, in the room where Dave is resting, he tells Paulina that he saw the figure of his younger sister, who has long been dead. The guilt over her death continues to haunt him. Dave then hands over the Bojobo doll he found earlier to Paulina. Meanwhile, tension reaches its peak when Tyler suggests that what they are experiencing is not merely hallucinations, but that they may have entered a different layer of time, going back to World War II when the bunker was still in use. However, Alan outright rejects the theory and insists that everything is just a setup by the locals to scare them away. Frustrated, Alan vents his anger by throwing a small bowl nearby, and in that instant, the atmosphere around them suddenly shifts. Out of nowhere, Alan sees the same mysterious old man they encountered earlier. The figure once again tells him that Alan must die, as if repeating the same warning. When Alan snaps back to reality, he immediately lashes out at Paulina, blaming her for everything that has happened, since she was the one who led them into the bunker. Trying to calm the situation, Paulina shows the doll Dave gave her and begins connecting it to the two images of dolls they saw earlier on the wall. They start to conclude that the two dolls are likely a pair bound together in the curse ritual, and that if they are reunited, there is a chance the curse within the bunker could be broken, allowing them to escape.
If we reunite them, then be able to get out of here.
Sure looks like the one in the painting. Come on.
However, when Paulina returns to the room to check on Dave, she experiences something horrifying. She sees the figure of her young son, who has long been dead. The vision convinces Paulina that the bunker is not just an ordinary place, but one that can bring out the deepest trauma of anyone trapped inside it. After that, they return to studying the journal left by the Japanese soldier who had previously killed himself. From the notes, it is revealed that the man was actually a commander assigned to guard the bunker during World War II, along with his troops who were ordered to hold their position until the end of the war. One of his subordinates began acting strangely and eventually broke through one of the bunker walls. From there, they discovered a passage leading to a hidden cave that had existed long before the bunker was built, and it was there that the commander first found the Bojobo doll. This discovery led them to an entrance to a place believed to be the source of the curse, a mysterious location later known as Geena, a place where suffering seems to have no end. It was there that the soldiers encountered a mysterious figure believed to be the Spanish colonel, the first person to receive the curse from the Chamorro people. Strangely, the figure deliberately thrust his body toward the weapon held by the Japanese commander, as if trying to transfer the curse to someone else. His death triggered a powerful earthquake, similar to the one later experienced by Paulina and her group. From that moment on, the soldiers began to lose control of themselves. One by one, they turned violent and killed each other until only the commander remained alive. The journal then abruptly ends without further explanation. When Alan leaves to search for Pepe, Tyler notices an additional note at the end of the journal expressing the commander's desire to change his life. Because of this, the commander ultimately chose to take his own life, hoping to redeem himself in another life. However, something unnatural occurs. He does not die and instead is forced to endure endless suffering, condemned to live eternally within that place, marking that the curse has passed on to him. At the same time, Dave is once again terrorized by the figure of Claire until a scream is heard, prompting Paulina and Tyler to rush back to the room.
No. No.
However, when they arrive, Dave is already found dead with a wound on his neck. Since Tyler had previously seen Pepe carrying a knife, he immediately assumes that Pepe is responsible. Without thinking, they grab a katana left by the Japanese soldiers and set out to find him.
Come on, we have to hurry. I can't see. It's not real. It's not real.
Their search leads them to a hole in the bunker wall that had been broken through by the soldiers. There, they discover the remains of long-dead soldiers. Suddenly, the situation takes a drastic turn when Alan appears and, without warning, stabs Tyler. It is then revealed that Alan is actually the one who killed Dave. He had misinterpreted the journal, believing that the only way to survive was to become the last person alive. Driven by that belief, Alan begins trying to kill everyone else, including Paulina. However, Paulina manages to escape by entering the hole leading into the cave.
Only one can live. Torment for eternity. Witness for eternity. Torment to all.
In the darkness, she eventually encounters Pepe again. Paulina then shows him the Bojobo doll she is holding and tries to convince him that they still have a chance to end the curse that binds the place. She believes that if the two dolls are reunited, the spirits of the ancestors bound within them can be reunited as well, and the curse haunting the bunker can finally be broken, allowing them to escape. However, Pepe rejects the idea, believing that it goes against the will of their ancestors. To him, the curse is not merely a punishment, but a sacred belief that must be preserved. Even so, Paulina continues to persuade him, explaining that reuniting the dolls is not about defying the ancestors, but restoring balance as depicted in the symbols on the wall. Coincidentally, Pepe is holding the other Bojobo doll he had taken from the body of the Japanese commander. As Pepe attempts to reunite the two dolls, Alan suddenly appears and strikes him from behind. In a state of rage and loss of control, Pepe instead destroys one of the dolls by cutting off its head, an act that unknowingly makes the curse impossible to break. The situation worsens when Alan, without hesitation, stabs Pepe. Yet, in his final moments, Pepe laughs and tells Alan that he may have won, but he does not understand the true meaning of being the only one left alive.
One witness for you win, boss.
After that, Alan continues chasing Paulina, who manages to escape from the scene. Meanwhile, Tyler is still alive, despite the severe wound in his abdomen. In his weakened state, he accidentally watches a video recording stored on Dave's camera. From the footage, Tyler finally realizes something they had failed to understand all along, that what is happening inside the bunker is not just ordinary terror, but a repeating cycle in which only one person remains alive, yet that person ends up trapped there forever. At the same time, Paulina manages to take a pistol from the hand of the dead Japanese commander. Not long after, she encounters Alan, who is now cornered since Paulina is holding a weapon. Just as Paulina is about to shoot, Tyler arrives and stops her, trying to explain that killing Alan is not the solution. However, before he can finish, Alan, still overwhelmed by panic, suddenly tries to attack both of them. With no other choice, Paulina shoots Alan in the stomach to stop him. Alan collapses, but when Paulina attempts to finish him, Tyler restrains her again and insists that Alan must not be killed. At that moment, Tyler begins to explain what is really happening. He says that the rule of that place indeed leaves only one person alive, but that person is not the winner. Instead, they become the one who inherits the curse and is trapped forever inside the bunker. However, Alan still does not understand and continues to believe that as long as he is the last one alive, he has won. Seeing this, Tyler finally explains everything more clearly to Paulina, and that is when she begins to understand that surviving actually means accepting a curse that will never end. She chooses to surrender and accept that reality. With a heavy decision, Tyler ultimately shoots Paulina as the only way to prevent her from becoming the one who must bear the curse.
Don't do it. Only one can live. So sorry.
I love you.
I love you too.
After that, Tyler, already out of strength, can only laugh softly before telling Alan that he still does not understand because living in that place means losing and being trapped forever in darkness. Not long after, Tyler dies from blood loss. Now, only Alan remains. At first, he feels relieved for surviving, especially when he notices that the gunshot wound in his body begins to heal on its own. However, that relief turns into unease as he recalls Tyler's words. Driven by curiosity, Alan takes Dave's camera and watches the recording stored inside. From there, he finally realizes the horrifying truth that the two bodies they found earlier in the bunker were actually Paulina and Tyler, in the exact same condition as when they died, and that the body in the room belonged to Dave. This realization hits him even harder when he understands that the old man who previously warned him to leave the bunker was actually himself from the future, recognizable by the same tattoo on his arm. That figure had told Alan that he must die because he already knew that surviving in that place is not a victory, but the beginning of endless suffering. In the end, Alan realizes that the curse operates as an unbroken time loop. The one who becomes the sole survivor will never truly be free, but will live for an extremely long time inside the bunker until eventually transforming into the same old man he once encountered. As time passes, decades go by until Alan fully becomes that figure, and he once again meets his past self in the group. The same events repeat in exactly the same way, forming an endless cycle that ensures the curse will continue and never truly end. This film is essentially about a curse that keeps transferring from one person to another inside a bunker, and it will never stop unless the cycle is broken. It all began with a Spanish colonel who once committed atrocities against the Chamorro people, and as a result, he was cursed to live eternally in suffering. Unable to endure the curse, he chose to pass it on to the Japanese soldiers, who later discovered the bunker, until eventually only one person remained, the Japanese commander, who then became the next bearer of the curse. The curse operates under a simple but deceptive rule: there must always be one person left alive. However, in reality, the last person alive is not the winner, but the one who becomes trapped forever and inherits the curse. There is actually a way to stop it, which is by reuniting the two separated Bojobo dolls. One doll is placed at the entrance to Gehenna, while the other is carried by an old man who once came to the bunker. However, he accidentally drops the doll, which is later found by Dave and brought into the bunker. Unfortunately, the chance to end the curse is destroyed when Pepe breaks one of the dolls, making the curse impossible to stop. At this point, everything turns into a survival game that Alan completely misunderstands. He believes that if he becomes the last one alive, he will survive, when in fact the opposite is true. He will be the one trapped forever. Tyler is the only one who understands this, which is why he chooses to kill Paulina to prevent her from becoming the next victim of the curse. In the end, Alan truly becomes the last one left. The wounds on his body heal on their own, making him believe that he has survived. But slowly, he realizes the horrifying truth when he sees that everything has already happened before. Even the old man who warned him at the beginning turns out to be himself from the future. That is when it is revealed that this is not just an ordinary curse, but a repeating time loop. Alan, who survived, is not truly saved. Instead, he is trapped inside the bunker for decades until he eventually becomes the same old man he once encountered. In this endless loop of time, he faces himself again, trying to warn his past self in an attempt to break the cycle, but always failing. And in the end, all of it becomes part of an endless cycle, an eternal suffering that never truly ends, and that is where the story ends.